You guys did that.
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Tacoma Public School Board of Directors for October 13th to order. And please, everyone, please rise and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tacoma Public Schools acknowledges that we are on the traditional, ancestral, and historical lands of the Puyallup Tribe of Indians. We honor with gratitude and the land itself and the Puyallup Tribe. This acknowledgement serves as a first step in honoring our nearest tribal neighbors and partners who have inhabited this region since time immemorial and to whom we give thanks for allowing us passage to their lands. We shall intentionally create inclusive and respectful partnerships that honor Indigenous cultures, histories, identities, and socio-political realities. At this time, we have a very special ceremony to perform. I'm excited. This is several years in planning and processing. And I'd like to invite Annette Bryan up. She's a council member for the Puyallup Tribe of Indians, the Tribal Council. So here she comes. Thank you. As you can all see, we have a new flag on our podium. And yeah, you can sit. And from this day forward, the flag of the Puyallup Tribe shall be displayed alongside the U.S. flag and the Washington State flag on the dais of the Tacoma Public Schools for the Board of Directors. I'm honored to be part of this historic and long overdue moment. And as you just heard in the land acknowledgement, we are on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Puyallup Tribe of Indians. The reading of the land acknowledgement is more than just a symbolic act. It's done at the beginning of every board business meeting in recognition of the fact that the Puyallup Tribe has inhabited this region, as I said, since time immemorial. The land acknowledgement also states that we shall intentionally create inclusive and respectful partnerships that honor Indigenous cultures, histories, identities, and socio-political realities. And we, as the Tacoma Public School Board, honor this commitment to our impactful relationships with the Puyallup Tribe. And tonight, we are proud to demonstrate this commitment by displaying the Puyallup tribal flag. We hope the children of Puyallup Tribe who attend Tacoma Public Schools and their families see the presence of the flag as a joyful endorsement and celebration of their history and culture. And Annette, we are so grateful to you being here today, and we'll turn the mic over to you.
Huxlahale, Eob the Eshed, Net Brian Cisa, Spiala Pubs Chud, as Joel Chud. I am the daughter of Les and Sharon Nelson and the granddaughter of Hattie, Ben and Lucille Reed. Hattie Cross is my great-grandmother, and I was listening to her language tapes today, so I have her on my brain. I descend from Puyallup on my grandmother's side and Quinault on my grandfather's side. I'm standing here wondering why I'm so nervous today, and I think it's because I have PTSD from being a student in the Tacoma Public Schools on my ancestral homelands in a place where I did not feel welcome. And I remember a story of arguing with my history teacher in middle school and getting kicked out of class and always feeling like other. And so I practiced this on the way here and thought I got it all out. But I am the product of Tacoma Public Schools. I have children who attended Tacoma Public Schools, and right now I have grandchildren attending Tacoma Public Schools. And it really warms my heart to see when I walk into the elementary school and the middle school of the grandchildren that I'm raising and seeing the 12 shoot seed language signs in the buildings prominently displayed where everyone can see them when you walk in. And we've come such a long way, and we have a long way to go, but this is very meaningful to me personally. And, you know, it means that the children that come after me don't have to go through what I went through. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank each and every one of you. This is very powerful and very meaningful, and I appreciate you. As Joel Chud, I am joyful. I raise my hands to you in gratitude. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Annette. Would you like to come up and so we can get a photo with you and the flag and board members? We're coming up.
Oh, yes, please.
And we're gonna kind of do this in a way where we're focusing on the flag.
I did you like my mom.
Is that? Oh, well, superintendent, put your no.
They said that you had to be in it.
Come on, you
Yeah.
have to be in here. You go stand over
There.
like wherever.
Going over there.
Okay.
Do you need us to squeeze in?
Awesome.
Yeah, we need to get close.
Okay, Annette, I got your phone in 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Mark's still doing it. Okay, look at Mark now.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. No. Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate this. Appreciate you.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You guys are a role model for the other districts.
Absolutely. All right.
Can we acknowledge David's contribution?
And also, as we're still, before we take the roll call, I want to acknowledge David Scythe, who is in the back of the room. I just noticed he'd come in. Thank you, David, who is our tribal liaison, and he has been absolutely fantastic. Every time we reach out to him, he reaches to the tribe. There's respectful interaction, and this would not have happened today without you, David. So thank you. Okay, so General Counsel, would you mind taking the roll?
Yes, President Bombright,
Here.
Director Stroger,
Here.
Director McElroy,
Here.
Director Leon,
Here.
Director Keating.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you so much. All right. So we actually, next item is to adopt the agenda. So do we have a motion?
I move to adopt the agenda.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Do we have any comments or questions or additions to the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, we have an agenda. Okay, item 7, recognition of staff, students, and community. We'll start with civic observances, and I will turn it back over to the General Counsel, who's got his hands full. We have multiple civic observances for the month of October.
Yes, we have 6 this month. And as a reminder, this is the first business meeting in the month of October. So these are the proclamations and these are the observances for the entire month. So first we have Child Health Day. This is a federal proclamation. Across America, parents are united by a common dream that their children's lives will be healthier, happier, and more promising than their own. On Child Health Day, the nation rededicates ourselves to making that dream a reality and recommit to providing every child with the quality healthcare, childcare, and education they need to thrive. The second observance for this month is Washington State Children's Day. This comes from state law. The legislature finds that Washington's children are one of the most valuable assets to the community. They represent hope for our future. It is increasingly important for families, schools, health professionals, caregivers, and state workers to support and encourage Washington's children and to help them build their dreams for their future. The third observance of the month of October is Indigenous Peoples Day. This is a federal proclamation. On Indigenous Peoples Day, we honor the sovereignty, resilience, and immense contributions the Native Americans have made to the world, and we recommit to upholding our solemn trust and responsibilities to tribal nations, strengthening our nation-to-nation ties. This year, Indigenous Peoples Day fell on October 10th. The fifth observance for this month is National School Lunch Week. This is a federal proclamation. The National School Lunch Program has provided nutritionally balanced, low-cost or no-cost lunches in our schools for decades, improving our children's health and well-being. Disability History Month. This is October is Disability History Month. This comes from state law. The legislature finds that annually recognizing disability history through our public education system during the month of October helps to increase awareness and understanding of contributions that people with disabilities make in our state, nation, and world. The legislature finds that recognizing this month will increase respect and promote acceptance and inclusion of people with disabilities. Finally, Filipino American History Month is in the month of October. Filipino Americans continue to make a lasting impact on the history and heritage of Washington State and in the United States. In recognition of their critical economic, cultural, and social contributions by Filipino Americans, the legislature has proclaimed October as Filipino American History Month. This has been in place since 2010.
Thank you,
Observations?
Malik. There's a lot to unpack here in October. There's a lot of significant topics and to focus on, and I do want to say it is not an accident that on Indigenous Peoples Day we, had the ceremony for the Puyallup tribal flag. So, and also I'd like to, recognize that next on the agenda we're going to be talking about nutrition services, which again, it's National School Lunch Week. So there you go. Does anybody have any comments or anything they want to say about any of this? All right. Thank you, General Counsel. Moving on to item number 8, Superintendent's Report. So item number 1 is introduction of the new student board representatives for this year.
Madam President, Board of Directors, to keep this official, I'd like to have our General Counsel, Mr. Benro, introduce you to your 22-23 student board representatives.
Should have it popping up in a moment. All right, so we have some upperclassmen here joining us as student school board representatives. Should this work properly? Here we go. Position number 1 will be filled by Paris Quinn. Paris is a Mount Tahoma High School senior. This is her second year as student rep to the board. She's previously served on the school staff council. She's and the superintendent school council. And she is the president of Mount Tahoma's BSU, their Black Student Union.
Yay.
The reasons for joining the board include to be part of the solution to bridge the gap between the school board and their students. She values serving her peers, students, and her community. So,
Hey, Paris.
thank you.
Welcome back, Paris.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Position 2 will be filled by Javon Smith. Javon is a senior at SAMI, at the Science and Math Institute. His involvement at his school includes restorative practices president, and he is the chairman of his BSU at Black Student Union at SAMI. Javon's reasons for serving on the board include his ability to affect policies that impact students and being able to learn from each of our board directors. Welcome,
All right. Thank you, Javon. Welcome, Javon.
We have 2 juniors joining us as well. These are our alternates.
One second. Will you help us out?
It's Javon.
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 Appreciate it, Javon.
Thank you very much.
We have 2 juniors joining us as well as alternates. Amanda Peterson is a junior at Lincoln High School.
Go Apes.
Her school involvement at Lincoln includes ASB Executive Board President and participation on Student Council for 5 years. She was a class president in 9th and 10th grade. Her reasons for serving on the board include to enhance her leadership skills and bring feedback of her peers to the school board. Welcome.
Yay.
Amanda.
Welcome, Amanda.
And finally, Zalicia. Zalicia De Leon is our alternate, also from Lincoln High School.
Go Apes again.
Her school involvement at Lincoln includes junior class senator and sophomore vice president. And her reasons for serving on the board include having ideas and bringing them to us on how to make schools a better place for students, with a belief that students should be able to voice their opinions, and she's ready to listen and be that voice for her peers. Welcome, Zalicia.
Welcome, Zalicia. All right, thank you. Well, we look forward to having you join us and share your perspectives. And so listen to what's going on. And if you have something that you want to say, let me know. But we do have time, try and call on you throughout if there's an opportunity. And then at the end, for sure, we're going to be asking you for comments. So just be thinking about what might be relevant to your peers. And I know that you know your responsibilities, but we really encourage you to reconnect with what you hear at the board meetings with your peers and get input and then bring back the feedback. That's really helpful to us in the past. We've found the input from the board representatives to be incredibly informative and really impactful. So hoping you guys are going to feel like you can just dive right in. All right, if you have any questions, ask Josh. All right. Any comments from anyone else? Okay, awesome.
Question.
Yes.
Javon, did you come last school year and present to us about restorative practices? I
Yep,
thought so.
he did. And weren't you also with the governor and got the thing for you, the
selfie.
the selfie, and you also were like Washingtonian of the day?
Shaven was Washington.
Oh, okay.
He was a senior last year. He graduated with the Access Scholarship. He got downside right now.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I just remember it was a blur that day, but
He also presented to all of the school administrators in August as well. So,
woohoo!
and we can go down the accolades of the Abes and Paris.
Oh,
You'll have
man.
a great opportunity to see there's a lot for us to learn.
Yeah, thank you. Great voices and great commitment. Thank you all. All right, item number 8.2, nutritional services update.
Yeah, so tonight, ironically, it is National School Lunch Week, but what we did want to do is just give you an update on what is happening with our nutrition services and our program offerings. It is safe to say that there were a lot of celebrations that happened during COVID. The amount of meals that we were able to serve, the frontline staff under Mr. Harris and the team worked relentlessly to make sure that kids had meals. But there was also a lot of opportunity that we recognized that we were very limited in our offerings because of supply chain in there. And so we wanted to start to present to you tonight of how we're doing forward thinking and how we're going to get back into the mode of how we provide healthy meals that are there every day, but also how we want to expand that. And so Mr. Harris is here tonight to give you that overview.
Perfect. Thank you, Josh. All right. So with that being said, good evening, President Bombright and members of the board, Dr. Garcia and team. We're excited to share that in addition to being able to offer free breakfast and lunch at no cost to all students, menu options are back as well. Full salad bars, unlimited fresh fruits and vegetables, daily hot and cold choices in all elementaries. Secondary schools are back to having multiple hot options, as well as rotating fresh salads and sandwiches daily. I'm also excited to share with you that we've launched the Second Chance breakfast opportunity in our middle schools and high schools, which provides breakfast options for our older students between first and second period. Still lots of room of improvement, and we're still dealing with the impacted supply chain and loss of program waivers that allowed us the flexibility during the pandemic, but it's good to finally start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And, oops, wrong way. And with that being said, and speaking of improvement, I'm excited to share with you our plan that we'll be rolling out this year to work towards fresher, tastier, and more interesting meal options. And it all starts with our nutrition services staff. Yep, it's training. It's already begun with skills training before school started, getting all of our gears re-greased as we come out of this pandemic and be able to start cooking again. Next up, we'll have experts coming in to finish our basics. But what I'm really excited to share with you tonight is we, in this spring, will be launching our Chef Days and Taste Testing Initiative. Chef Nick, as well as other industry leaders, have graciously offered their services to help us be better. And what that consists of is the chefs will actually come into our middle schools and high schools and work side by side with our staff to take menus that sometimes the recipes that we do currently have and make them better, and or by going out to surveys to our kiddos in our buildings, being able to provide better options that they want to see in our schools.
Cool.
Perfect. This is really where we're at to start building this school year. Bringing in chefs who want and are willing to work with our teams to build new menu items, giving our kids and staff a chance to give feedback. That is very important. And implementing new items and opportunities district-wide. I will also share with you that something that we've been challenged with for the last 2.5 years has been the supply chain. And there's a lot of misinformation out there on it's back, it's normal. We really struggled actually the first couple of weeks of school to actually get in what we needed versus what we were getting. And so I will tell you, starting October 1st, we saw the supply chain really lighten up, and it was going full steam ahead until this week. And then we've had some challenges too. But there's a few hiccups, but it looks as if things are getting back to normal, if whatever the new normal is, right? So with that being said, I will end this brief little update and open it up to questions at this time.
Okay, does anyone have any comments? Vice President Keating.
Yeah, I was curious about the impacts, and I'm sure that, I don't know if you would be able to even answer this, but thinking about the impacts of Hurricane Ian specifically, just on food supply chain and just supply chain, I imagine that that's maybe what is leading to some of the impacts that you're recently seeing, but just wondering if you have any insight there.
Actually, I am on a USDA monthly meeting, and currently the United States is really cut down the middle when it comes to supply chain, and we're currently not impacted by that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions? Director Leon.
Just a description of what the second chance breakfast entails. How does it work for them to get that food between first and second?
Absolutely.
You have to sign up ahead of time, and little details about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we are able to do is one of our biggest challenges is getting kids to school in a timely manner to eat the traditional breakfast. And so with a national-wide survey through the Kids Healthy Hunger Act, I will tell you that the kiddos that get there late and or don't have an opportunity to eat traditional breakfast, we were able to give them a second chance opportunity with a kiosk. So it's not a hot breakfast per se like the traditional. It's more of a grab and go opportunity, similar to what you see at any grab and go opportunity. With that being said, though, it's a kiosk that is usually about 4 shelves high. It has our current POS system on it, so we're able to track the sale of the item. Even though it's free, we still track what kids eat, what kids don't. So we are able to track if they eat a traditional breakfast in the morning, and then if they want a second breakfast type of thing. And so we're able to eliminate second breakfasts and stuff like that. But with that being said, they go there, they get their 4 components for breakfast, including a milk, fresh fruit, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. So we set it up strategically in places like a high school, for instance. Let's talk about stadium, 4 stories high. Not everybody can make it down to the bottom story to get a breakfast in the kitchen. So we go to them, and we set up kiosks throughout the building to where when the bell rings between first and second, they walk out, grab and go through POS and go right back into their next class.
Okay. So it's manned by a person who takes the little
Yes,
card,
sorry.
stuff like that?
Yeah, it's manned by a nutrition services worker, and they are the ones that are getting the kiddos through the POS system as they come through.
Okay. This would be a place where a kid that's doing Tacoma Flex and doesn't come first period could get their breakfast if they needed
Absolutely.
to get nutrition. Through that. Okay.
Mhm.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, Paul. Any other questions?
Just grateful that the salad bars are back. I mean, as a kid through TPS, I did not appreciate hot lunch. I was like a salad eater. I still am. And the kids I serve, they've been talking about. They weren't eating at middle school last year, and now they're like, oh, I eat a salad every day, Coach. I'm really excited about it. So I'm happy it's back.
Good. Yeah, we have seen an increase in our participation rate in the first month of school, and we weren't able to have a full implementation of our menu, so we're excited.
Fantastic.
I'd like to thank Paul, and I want to thank the whole nutrition services team. it has not been an easy job, like everyone in education, but they had a really unique challenge, limited food supply, constant changing of schedules. Sometimes we don't always provide the nicest feedback, and they're the frontline staff that get that on a daily basis. And they do it with grace, and they do it because they know it's making a difference in keeping kids healthy and safe. And so I just, on behalf of the entire CAB team, want to thank Paul and the entire nutrition services team for their work that they're doing, and really feel good about that we're not settling and wanting a desire to get better. We talked to you a lot in the past, not a lot, but enough in the past about the concept of a central kitchen and how do we continue to find ways to meet the needs of our local schools and our communities with our team to do better, more engaging, healthier options. And so we're going to continue down that pathway of continuous improvement. And so thank you to the entire team. And then I'll do a shameless plug. If you want to be a part of that amazing team, we are still hiring.
Yes,
and we
we
are
are.
constantly looking for folks to join that team. And you can go on to the Tacoma Public website and join one of the best teams that we have. Thank you.
Woohoo. Thank you, Josh.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Appreciate your time. And thank everyone for us. All right, moving on to item 9, staff report to the board. Item 9.1, benchmark report, annual early learning in 3rd grade.
So tonight, we have Assistant Superintendent Zeke Edmond and Assistant Superintendent Tony Pace. We are in our regular scheduled board monitoring reports for your strategic plans and your strategic plan goals. And one of those is 3rd grade reading. So I will turn it over to the team.
Excellent. Thank you. So out of our benchmarks, of course, goal 3 for early learning is where our SBA piece falls in. There are other academic pieces that we monitor from assessments in our academic excellence, but today we'll focus on that 3rd grade level. Just a reminder, I know we've shown this a few times. We've added a little bar line in here that we did not take the SBA for a couple of years, right? That spring of 2020 all the way through spring of 21, there were no state assessments. And then as we came back into swing last school year, it was the first time for us to take this since spring of 19. So not only was this, we have a lot of kids that never saw this, right? 3rd, 4th graders rolling into 5th grade, not having seen an assessment like this. We really encourage not to spend a lot of time practice testing, show them on the format, introduce what it looks like, and then jump into business when it's time in that window. So as a result, what we have here for 3rd grade English language arts for Tacoma at the top in 2022, we combine level 3 and level 4 for students that have passed at a 43% rate. And in 2019, you can see a combined pass rate of 51%, so about an 8% drop over the course of the 3-year window. Our district goal 2018 was 59%. Looking at our scores compared to the state, so in 2019, Washington State in blue at 55%, we were at 51, so we see about a 4% difference. We see a similar 4% difference in 2022. So we saw the impact this had on a larger scale statewide, and then for us in Tacoma. And we average in 3rd grade a little over 2,000 kids per grade level. It's a representation of sample size. And then as we look at our different groups of students in 2022 compared to 2019, this is the pass rate by student group and its change. Again, we were at the 43% proficiency rate, so you can see which groups were in and near that or below and above as you go down the line. Still 3rd grade, looking at the math, our 2022 combined level 3 and 4 is at 40%. Our 2019 has a combined level 3 and 4 of 52%. So this is where we see a little bigger difference between the 3-year window with about a 12% difference. And then again, looking at ours compared to Washington State, 2019, the state was at 58%. In 2022, the state was at 49, so we see about a 9% difference there. And for us, we went from 52 down to 40. And in similar fashion for math, looking at our student groups 2019 to 2022 and the difference between each student group. So our key findings, there's a couple of pieces to know just in the test itself. This spring, the state did modify the assessment. So normally there's a couple different parts. You've got 40 questions that fall in that true false window or short answer, or in writing that looks a little different in their writing passage. And they have a performance task as well. And when the state lowered or decreased the number of questions, that not only changed how the test was weighted between normally the questions part carried a lot more weight versus the performance task. Now we saw that shift. So one mistake on a performance task could have a bigger impact on your outcome. We also saw that normally in the assessment, we get a lot of claim or domain level back. So in math, it wouldn't be just here's how you did in math, but here's how you did in your algebraic thinking or understanding in geometry or the different parts that make up the whole. And we weren't able to get that this time around. So we're using more of our local iReady and classroom level assessments to drill further into which parts of math do our kids need more support in. And then our ELA, we saw a similar change in performance from 2019 to 2022 as the state did. I'm going to skip next steps because my sidekick, Tony Pace, will do that part for ELA, but key findings in math are similar. Again, the test was decreased from 40 to 25, which I think kids celebrated for sure. Teachers, we got more time back in our school day. But again, that changed how things were weighted. For sure.
Thank you, Zeke. So our next steps are similar for ELA and math as well. We continue to grow our explicit instruction around CEL to support the whole child and create safe learning environments for our students. We've learned a lot from the COVID experience about the whole child and focus more on that than we have in the past. Our equity work is first and foremost pedagogical. Principals and instructional coaches focus on pedagogy and student data monthly with evidence of implementation, analysis, and calibration of practices and impact cycle and the impact cycle. And they do this predominantly through professional learning communities. CAP, our continuous achievement plan process, is in year 2 of identifying differentiated instruction for ELA by grade level, priority standards with evidence of student feedback. We also are continuing to identify and use effective formative assessments to monitor student growth and inform instructional decisions. We are piloting a new K-5 comprehensive ELA curriculum for adoption and implementation in the fall of 2023. And we are also beginning the development of an MTSS multi-tiered system of support throughout the district.
What exactly does that mean?
Pardon me?
What is the MTSS?
Multi-tiered system of support.
What does that mean?
There's actually 3 tiers. Tier number 1 is core instruction, which most students get. The large majority of students have that access to that. Tier 2 is small group intervention and instruction, and Tier 1 is individual.
Thank you.
That give you enough information? Okay. Zeke, is there anything you would like to add to that? In math, again, like I said, we're doing many of the same kinds of things. Explicit instruction around CEL to support the whole child, the equity work. There's a new K-5 math adoption that took place in year 1 of COVID. TPS is focusing PD on rough draft math, lesson cycles, studies, classroom visits, and more. The CAP process, again, in year 2 of identifying differentiated instruction for math. And the use and identification of formative assessments to monitor growth, form instructional decisions, and also, again, the beginning of the development of the MTSS support system. So those are some of the things we're working on for next steps.
Tony, could you just explain what rough draft math means?
That's the title of it. I'm going to turn it over to Zeke because he's the expert on math adoption. Thank you.
Last year, we partnered with Manny Jensen, whose book was Rough Draft Math, and we think about writing. We talk about rough draft all the time, which really meant get your ideas, start your format, flush it out, where's your details, and you have permission to kind of get it wrong. Now we'll work on our next draft towards final. And in math, and a lot of us experience it, we're going to work on this problem, and there's kind of this like, get it right? Versus this idea of how many times can you get it wrong, have permission to get it wrong as you make sense of it conceptually before you have to get it right. And so really trying to create that permission space in classroom so that kids can productively struggle and it's okay. Like we recognize this is not easy. Today we're doing two-plot graphing and goof it up over and over until we as a group can make sense of this and now show and model understanding. And can we do that even with multiple representations, right? So it's just a little more time and space for kids. And one of the anchoring pieces is students' rights in the classroom. Their right to ask questions. You saw on the slide on next steps, that idea of a safe learning environment. Like I think we heard from our guests, is it always safe to raise your hand and ask a question? Or is that kid holding back because they're worried or might be judged or things like that? So shifting locus of control onto the kids, giving them room to make those mistakes, clarifying it's totally okay. We all do it. Now, what do we need to do to help you so you can get it right? And our math team is actually presented with Manny Jensen at our Northwest Math Conference, which happens to be tomorrow and Saturday, right next door at the Convention Center.
Thank you.
Anyone
Question?
Yep, go ahead.
So pre-COVID, kids are about 20% having anxiety regarding tests, and that was before COVID. That's what the data showed here in Washington State. About 20% of students struggled with test anxiety, and then over time, we've also learned that tests have a negative impact on students of color, and that the tests aren't really focused in a way that really supports the way that they think and expand and express themselves. So, like, what is this data from the SBA being used for in practice in our third grades? Like, what is it for?
So our shift actually started last year to get off of state testing when we wrote our student learning plan. So the CAP process, that tiered. So third grade team for ELA and math, those are their two goal areas, will sit down and use student work from the last week and a half, and use that to then differentiate based, right? We have our priority standards, we have our rubrics that go with it. Where are you in that rubric with it? The team scores it. It's really exciting to watch teams come together and have that calibration, how Malik might have looked at it versus myself. And so we can see kids better now that we've got a better understanding. And now as we write our plan, then we know, again, everybody's going to get tier 1. And here's our small group based on our results. And we're not using last spring's, maybe even prior school data to drive those plans.
That's awesome. And then my other question is, what interventions are being placed in the second grade for math and ELA intervention? Like, because we know they're going to be tested and we're going to use that data to help us expand and be a better district because we're pretty awesome. But like, what interventions do we currently have in place for second graders?
Right. So all the way through, right? Starting with WA kids and working our way up through first grade, where are kids with phonics? So even before we have a math conversation, can they even read these questions to make sense? So we recognize we've put kind of a double down on that reading side, especially on those early years, on that phonemic awareness, that early skill development. As we get into middle to later second grade, the kids are still taking an iReady, which has some similar formats. iReady also gives us those domains and claims we talked about earlier. So I can also see, all right, our number sense is strong here, but our geometric is an area of concern. That unit's coming up in the spring, right? This is where I can double down in that space. So teachers have quite a bit of information to leverage.
All right. Thanks, Zeke.
Yep.
Anybody have any?
I have a curiosity, and I don't know if this is still true for the SBA, but I know in years past, if a student, if they were absent or if that there was an impact on our overall data, if a student was absent and if there was a language barrier, they still had to sit and take the test. But if they didn't speak the language or weren't able to interpret what they were taking, that still their grade was a 0 or their I
Test
don't
score.
know that I'm saying that quite
Sure,
right,
sure.
but so I'm curious if there's been any adjustments to that.
So you'll see in the data itself, some of the graphs have a gray, right? That's 6%. So the kid blazed through it, right? So we can see that since it's computer, like, wow, you finished this in 28 seconds. That's pretty good, right? So we're going to invalidate that score. It might have been a language thing. It might have been some kids couldn't finish in that window. Refusal, opt out, all those kind of things show up. So the gray is a bucket, catch all for some of those pieces.
Okay, thank you.
They are still part of the accountability system. They still reflect that in there. So it's not like they're removed from the end size. They are just categorized in there. So it's a federal accountability piece.
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate your comments, Director McElroy. I think one of the things that we're really trying to continue to do that you folks started before COVID is this idea that there's multiple measures of success. And specifically in math, is we look at grades and why you started the work way back when around prioritization standards is it's very important that we identify what are the most important things that are building blocks that are in our sphere of influence. We have to measure our students using the SBA, but we do not use that as an accountability system for staff or students. It's a measurement of time of what that looks like. And so as we go deeper into our work, we will continue to focus in on the standards and not the single assessment.
All right. Anything else? Oh, Director Leon.
Yeah. So I appreciate the discussion from Director McElroy and the superintendent. I think, as you've pointed out, testing has its biases, and cultural biases, ethnic biases have been present. Those test makers are trying to do away with some of that, but it's not complete yet. You mentioned something about getting away from state testing, in that and you mentioned obviously it's a requirement to do some of these tests, I think for funding, but not using it as a grade, formal grade for the kids. But we still need to measure something. The numbers, as you mentioned, they've gone down across the board in our state for everybody. We didn't start at a great place. We weren't near our goals before the pandemic. We're obviously lower than that now. The breakdowns in the BIPOC groups, the people of color groups, went down even further, larger numbers than the other groups. And in your next steps, I mean, there's a lot of information there. Next steps, those are the presumed, our working solution for improving this. Are these next steps? The multi-tiered support systems you mentioned. There's what were they? Core, individual group, or small group. I mean, we've done some of that in the past. Does this mean this is going to be one of the main ways we're going to be helping some of these kids that need extra help, or there's several other things in the next steps? Just wondering what you think we might be able to use as multifaceted solutions, I'm sure.
Right.
Not just one thing that's going to do it.
So there's
where do you think our improvements are going to come from? Yeah.
Several systems in place simultaneously. We bring in principals and coaches now together in one group monthly. Their focus is on math, right? We clearly see that in the data. It's around the practice in classroom and that differentiation that happens between tier 1, 2, and 3. We've had conversations about the materials that we're putting in the hands for those small groups and one-on-one instruction. So we still have work to do there. So when it says we're beginning the MTSS, we know that by 2028 from the state, we have to have it. We are shooting to be ahead of that by a couple of years, but we have to get really scripted going into some of those categorical pieces. So I have a third grader who has some skills in number sense, but is struggling in algebraic sense. What am I doing for that skill deficit? Not more math across the board for that kid. So it's a higher degree of specificity to fill that deficit spot. So we come together, principals, instructional coaches, we're working on that tier 1, whole group instruction. What does that look like to differentiate? We're working with the Title I department, special ed department as we look at what those interventions look like. a big chunk of that still happens in that core classroom with that third grade teacher around small group. Our math adoption, unfortunately, we launched our math adoption the year we went out that spring. So teachers haven't even done a full year. So we're now back to math walkthroughs, lesson cycle studies, where we're really getting back into the classroom space with folks from our CNI department with that third grade team, looking at a much higher level of what happens in this 60-minute lesson that we can maximize learning. So we know we can go through the process, we can deliver the curriculum, we can address the standard, but we need a higher level of skill and capacity for what is that kid missing tied to the standard? What do I do? What materials do I use? What is my window for intervention? How do I progress monitor that? And as soon as the kid shows they have that skill, you're out. And now we're going to go grab the next group of kids, right? So we can certainly get tighter on those systems. And that's where MTSS is more concrete than some of the things we've done before, where intervention might have gone for 10 weeks or 12 weeks, and a kid might have met that standard by week 7.
I wouldn't want to paint a picture that we're ignoring state tests if I've given you that at all. I want to paint a picture that we also recognize the limitations of it. Yep. I'll put you on the spot a little bit as board. Do you all believe that every kid learns at the same rate?
No.
So you have an assessment system that is designed for a very specific reason. It is around in society and culture, is designed to say every kid should be at the same rate of their learning at this development age. And so what we recognize is there is an intent there. The intent is that we are using data to not continue to increase achievement gaps. We should look at that. We should reflect that. We should develop intentional plans. But there is limitations to that. In that test data, so if you look in this and we go deeper into here, 2019, you're a third grade. Where are you in 2022? Well, you're really a fifth grade because of the way the test is. I mean, so what we're trying to do with staff is understand it and is to say every staff member every team has to have a plan to help their children where they are. The state test data does not give them that diagnostic piece. And we recognize that as a system. And so we have to keep on relentlessly trying to get better. But the accountability for an individual classroom teacher can't be held, or even a school that says you're not doing things, when we recognize that that system is set up naturally with some bias. So if you look at those third graders, where were they as a state when they got to fifth grade? So the state fifth grade or third graders were 55% in ELA, and then in fifth grade, they were 52%. In TPS, they were 51% and 48% in fifth grade. That is a different picture than what we just shared with you of this 12% gap. Mm-hmm. And so even as we have limitations of our strategic plan benchmarks, and there's lots of good reasons to that, I don't want to ever paint a picture that we're ignoring this. We're using it in context. We have to use it in context. And Director Leon, you are spot on. We cannot just talk in theoretical spots of these big, bold pieces. So we have to have these intentional plans. And what Zeke is sharing with us is it really has got to be down to that local level, into that individual building. We can build frameworks. We can build better systems to get better tools. We have to build a better assessment system. And that is different than a test, but an assessment system. We've got to find better tools to give teachers that feedback that can be done in a functional manner that says, okay, this specific standard, and we're looking at each other because we have these numerous difficult conversations, because you can't just go by that. And then the most masterful teachers know how to break that standard down to that verb, which is the depth of knowledge piece. And then they can ask questions in real time. They can ask Director Strozier, list something. They can ask Dr. McElroy, can you tell me a little more about that? Can you predict that? And so they can engage that. There's no formal way to capture all that yet. Mm-hmm. And so that's the continued excitement and this continued angst that we share, that I see that you share, which is we can't keep on having these results. Mm-hmm. We know that there are other school systems that are getting better results in this area, just like we're getting better results in other areas. So we're in that constant conversation of learning and how do we get better at that. And that multiple tiered support system is really about that piece to say it can't just be systematically whole group. Yes, we've got to improve that instructional practice. How do we keep kids safe? Even the term in math, every question is labeled as a problem. Doesn't seem very inviting when you're trying to learn. So I just want to pause because I would feel horrible if I let you or the public think that we are not looking at this or we are dismissing it. That is not my intent in my comments. My intent is to say we have to calibrate it and context that single data point with other data points.
One of the other pieces that comes to mind too that we don't talk about a lot is in the old style of teaching, you know, the classroom, just the teacher was responsible and they were the only ones who interacted with the kids. And what I'm really appreciating is the teaming that's going on and the work that multiple eyes, you know, on every child, so that someone who may or may not, you know, see that some child's struggling in one way where the teacher, you know, may have missed it because she's got all these kids and whatever. So I think it's a package of how we're approaching education that's shifting, and I think it looks like it's moving in the positive, but again, it takes some time to calibrate to get to where you need to be.
I would just add also that the standards that our students are facing and that our staff are being asked to teach have never been at a higher rate out of any other generation. And even how the assessment system poses challenges. If you're a high school student, you are assessed in what is traditionally junior math in your sophomore year. You have to have access to Algebra 2, trigonometry, to be successful on that assessment. And so there are so many different layers of contextualization that we have to put to that piece. And so we got to get better. We got to get better at it. We got to think about different resources. We got to think differently about how that second set is without pulling a kid out of another section.
Right.
An art class, a music class, a reading class. And we definitely have not arrived. So we will keep on grinding to get better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Well, thank you, Zeke and team. Oh, yes, Jean, you've got a comment?
Javon,
What'd I say?
Javon.
Javon? But that's what I said.
Josh,
thank you.
Josh,
will you jump up to the mic so the public can hear you?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I thought that's what I said. Javon.
It sounded like John. Javon.
Hi. When Josh was talking, referencing the depth, interest that is needed inside of a teacher to build good questions, to actually understand and build, to ask questions in the moment and have them like genuinely be interesting, is something that I've been working on developing for teachers through like professional development meetings that I do. So it was really cool seeing somebody else be on the same thought process as me, or like the same train. I didn't think I'd have to stand up to say this. Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's fabulous insights. All right. Thank you, Zeke. And, pardon? Yeah, and Tony, thank you. Okay, moving on to 9.2, the ESSER update.
In so many ways, I am excited to be talking about school learning supports. And tonight we have another pretty heavy topic, which is ESSER. And Ms. Courtney Leach, our grants manager, is here to give you an ESSER update on how we've been using those funds and to give you a little bit of update of where we're going.
Good evening.
Welcome, Courtney.
Wonderful to see all of you. Thanks for the opportunity to provide an update on management of our pretty heavy federal elementary and secondary school emergency relief funding, or ESSER. A reminder, these are our one-time relief funds intended to support continued school operations and to narrow persistent gaps worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic. All right, so first I'm going to try to make this brief.
I will share where we are in our ESSER journey, provide an update on our 3-year ESSER 3 spending plan. There's lots of threes in this presentation. How spending plans align to priority areas of investment, and how we're leveraging funds in the current year to support staffing. Then I'll provide a quick overview of our plans to share the story of how these funds are making a difference for our community, which is the most exciting part by far. So this is a beefy slide, so bear with me. The big important point is that, where you are on the map, little guy in the top right-hand corner. So this slide provides a high-level map of where we are in our ESSER journey, which began back in 2020. So ESSER 1, as you recall, allocated $8.2 million to the district. As of the close of that school year, that 2021 year, 100% of that allocation was expended. ESSER 2 provided $31.5 million available through September of 2023, so next year. As of August, just a little bit ago, 100% of these funds have been expended. So we are well ahead of schedule to ensure that these funds are reaching our schools and our community in a very timely manner. Finally, ESSER 3 provides $70.8 million through September of 2024. As of now, 21% of those planned expenditures have taken place, which is fantastic. So, our ESSER 3 3-year spending plan, this is our spending plan year by year, just so you have this awareness. We made a good start in 21-22. While our ESSER 2 funds were in progress, so we have some overlap there. You'll see that expenditures will ramp up in the current year. We're really getting going, and we'll finish strong in 23-24 by that deadline. This slide shows our spending plan by areas of investment. Facility improvements, including indoor air quality enhancements, is our largest area of investment, followed by programming to support learning recovery and acceleration. Additional expenditures aligned to educational technology, which we still have going on. We need to replenish those laptops. Ensuring continuous operations, very critically hold child supports and educator supports. And you'll see lastly that we do still have some COVID-19 safety expenditures on the docket that was still in play in the 21-22 year, and so we have those expenditures. Let's see, in the current year, this is just a little note for your awareness, in the current year, just over 120 staff FTE positions are supported by ESSER. So that is significant, totaling just over 13 million. The majority of supported staff are certificated staff and are education support professionals. So we have that to dive in just for your awareness.
So I'm going to pause this real quickly there. And what's important for all of us to remember is part of the ESSER is to help us, that could be used for enrollment stability. And so when you look at what are those buckets and those large buckets, some may ask, well, what happens? Why are we adding staff if our enrollment's down? Well, the idea is that we are going to balance out, and we will kind of handle some of those either through attrition if the enrollment doesn't come back, but we can't just change the whole education programming overnight. I mean, that will have even more negative consequences on our kids' learning opportunities. And a lot of those educational support specialists are there for extra supports inside of the buildings. And so the concern that we all have is yes, and ESSER dollars will go away. And so we will have to be in a place as we start to get through this year to start to look at either enrollment, either coming back to pre-COVID, and it may or may not. I mean, that's just a reality that we all face, or we're going to have to start to design programming differently. And so I want to put that on our plates a little bit to give us chance to process.
All right, and so as we think about those uses, and we can put a lot of numbers out there, but what critically I find the most compelling is the story of how these funds are making a difference in so many critical and exciting ways. And so I'm delighted to announce that in the coming weeks, our website will be updated with descriptions of more than 30 specific projects that ESSER 3 is funding. These will be available for us all to explore, for our public to explore, for our champions and stakeholders in Washington, D.C., who help support education funding to explore. And our communications department will be sharing the story of these investments through the coming year through social media and storytelling. So stay tuned. And it's an exciting story. So we're excited to share that with you. Any questions?
It is our intent to match the intent of what the legislation was, to use the resources to our fullest capacity on the students that we have now. And so what we're hoping that you see is that commitment and that plan. And you're saying, like I say, is, well, there's still a lot of room in that ESSER 3. Yes, but it is planned for. So some examples would be online tutoring. We know that online tutoring is going to be needed not just this year, but also all the way through 2024. I would imagine that's something that we're going to have to consider moving beyond 2024. And so we'll be engaging in some broader conversations as we go over the next couple of years. We'll have to be very, what's the word that I'm looking for? Passionate about our clarity and advocacy with the legislators to say that these are some supports that should be part of the new way we do education. And we're going to have to engage our community to say what needs to change as well. Not yet, but as we move forward.
Right. Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you. Item number 10, members of the public wishing to address the board. Before I go through all of this, I'll just see, is there anyone from the public here?
We did not receive any comments for either verbal public comment or written public comment.
Okay. Well, for those interested in future meetings, you can send an email to the board at board@tacoma.k12.wa.us. And we look forward to hearing from you. All right. Item 11, consent agenda. Can I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Anyone have any comments or questions about any items on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? It passes 5-0. Item 12, policy matters. We have none this evening. Item 13, financial report. The district's next quarterly financial report is planned for November 10th. Our monthly financial statements can be found on the district website at https://www.tacomaschools.org/departments/business and finance, for those of you that are curious. Courtney may have stirred something of interest up in folks. Item 14, curriculum and development. Item 14.1, approval of contract number TSD-22-210 with the College Board for AP testing.
The Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning recommends that the Board of Directors approve the College Board contract number TSD 22-210 for the 2022-23 school year in the amount of $250,000. Funding source, highly capable students, assessment, and basic ed.
So just as point of clarity, is this because we pay for students to take the AP test, and so this is the cost for making
Correct.
it available to all students who want to take it?
Correct.
Okay.
I move to adopt item 14.1.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions?
Madam President, I would just remind those at home, so one of your strategic plan goals is students participating in a college level class. Those options are the same options that are identified by the state. So when we look at our rigor benchmark, that could be an AP exam, that could be an IB exam, that could be a college in the high school, that could be a running start course, or that could be a college tech prep class. The Tacoma Public Schools does not value one more than the other.
Right.
And we try to functionally support each of them as best we can. And so as you're looking at this investment, this is a direct alignment to your strategic plan goals.
And it's just one of many of the pieces that put the puzzle together for our students. Thank you, Superintendent. All right. Item number 15.
Did we
We
vote?
have to-
What, should we pass it? What do you
Yeah,
think?
Maybe.
maybe.
Yeah,
Should we
maybe.
pass it? Let's pass it. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, it passes 5-0. Well done, team. Love it when you keep me honest. Item number 15, business matters. 15.1, approval of contract number TSD-22-202 between Sumner School District and Tacoma Public Schools for the 2022-2023 school year.
The Chief Financial Officer recommends that the Board of Directors approve contract number TSD 22-202 between Sumner School District and Tacoma School District for the 22-23 school year.
I move to adopt item 15.1.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Anyone have any comments or questions on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0. Item 15.2, approval of Avaya license and maintenance for 2022-2027.
Chief Information Officer recommends that the Board of Directors authorize the superintendent to award the contract for licensing and maintenance for September 1, 2022 through August 31st, 2027 for an estimated 5-year cost of $791,519.20. Funding source, Technology Services.
I move to adopt item 15.2.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Anyone have any comments or questions on this item?
I think my only comment when I read that there are 7,000 phones that are monitored, that just seems like a lot. Like as I was reading the description. Anyways, it's a lot of phones.
We do have a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Anyone else have any comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0. Item 15.3, approval of FortiGate licensing for district firewalls for 3 years.
Chief Information Officer recommends that the Board of Directors approve the renewal of the FortiGate agreement in the amount of approximately $313,892.38 for the 2022 through 2025 school years. Funding source, Technology Levy.
Do I have a motion?
I move to adopt item 15.3.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Ed. Item 16, other business. 16.1, adoption of resolution. Oh, and it's a resolution, so get ready. We're going to call the roll. Adoption of resolution number 2116, outstanding warrants.
The Chief Financial Officer recommends that the Board of Directors adopt resolution number 2116 and cancel warrants that have remained outstanding for over 1 year. And if I can just make an editorial comment, these are actually monies that we owe to other individuals. And so you'll see the list of names there that are identifying for those individuals that we owed them money and that we had issued them a check and they never cashed that check. And we've made multiple attempts to try to have them cash those checks. But now we need to take that money off of our books and send it off to the state. So that money is still there, but it's just going to be accessed through the state and they can find that online. So if you see anyone's name, let them know.
Yeah, and actually that's an interesting piece of information for the public that the state, often you may not know it, but they may have some money that you paid a doctor or something and then they got overpaid, so they had to give it to the state. So what is it called again? Is it my money? Something, God.
It's sitting back there on my agenda. I'm sorry I don't have it. It's right in front of me.
Just thought
I want to say it's like Find My Cash or findmycash.org is what I want to say it is.
Claimyourcash.org.
Thank you.
Okay, so for those of you who are just sitting around with your computers, you might want to put your name in, Claim My Cash, and see if there's anything there for you.
And use your initials too, because sometimes they just go in as random initials. So.
Oh, interesting. All right. So do we have a motion?
I move to adopt.
A second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded twice.
Everyone's looking at their initials.
I know, everyone's like going, what? Where's my money? Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none from Rosalind for this. Oh, Rosalind wants to talk.
Resolution.
Oh, it's a resolution. So, shoot, I got all ready and then I forgot.
So close.
President Bummer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Strozer?
Aye.
Director McElroy?
Aye.
Director Leon?
Aye.
Director Keating?
Aye.
Resolution passes 5-0.
All righty, 16.2, adoption of resolution 2117, the acceptance of contract between Tacoma School District Number 10 and the Turner Construction Company. Hi, Morris.
How are you? The Executive Director of Planning and Construction for the Chief Operation Officer recommends that the Board of Directors adopt Resolution 2117 for the acceptance of project completion and approval of acceptance of contract with Turner Construction Company for the Burney Elementary School replacement. There is a correction, however, in the funding source. The funding source is the 2013 bond, not the 2020 bond.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion?
I move to adopt 16.2.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions on this issue? Hearing none, all those in favor say, okay. Hearing none, please read the roll call.
President Bombright, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Strozier?
Aye.
Director McElroy?
Aye.
Director Leon?
Aye.
Director Keating?
Aye.
All right,
Passes 5-0.
thank you, Morris.
Thank you.
Item 16.3.
Madam President, if you don't mind, real quickly, I just would acknowledge that Mr. Aldridge recently became a grandfather. So if you want to see a proud grandfather and a new granddaughter, he'd be happy to show you pictures at the end of the board meeting.
All right.
So, thank
I
you
feel like
for
we need to
entertaining-
bring Carla back so we can compare grandchildren.
Well, I do not want to start
no.
uncivil conversation,
Okay.
so I will just leave it at the celebration of Morris as a new grandfather.
Congratulations,
Congrats.
Morris.
Congratulations. All right, item number 16.3, ratification of the 2021-2024 collective bargaining agreement between Tacoma Public School District Number 10 and the membership of the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 302-Security.
The Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources recommends that the Board of Directors ratify the collective bargaining agreement between the Tacoma School District Number 10 and the membership of the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 302 Security.
I move to adopt item 16.3.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions on this item? Hearing none, would the General Counsel please read the roll call?
President Bombright, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Strozier?
Aye.
Director McElroy?
Aye.
Director Leon?
Aye.
Director Keating?
Aye.
Resolution passes 5-0.
5-0. Thank you, Renee. Awesome. Well, we are at item number 17, board comments and reports. Yes, we are going to see if our students have any comments. So you've had time to think about it. This is your first meeting. Well, not Paris's, but the rest of you, it's your first board meeting. So who's interested in making a comment? And you come on up to and for the public, please introduce yourself one more time. And
Hi, my name's Amanda Peterson. I go to Lincoln High School. I was just happy to hear about the updates and plans for nutrition and lunch because I know that's been a concern for some Lincoln students. I know a few people would skip out on lunch because they weren't really excited for what there was, but I'm glad to hear that there's going to be more options, and I hope that would improve people's idea or excitement towards their lunch. Other than that, the school year has been really good so far. A lot of people are participating more. Those who I feel like more people are happier now, have a better attitude, and that's all. Thank you.
so you're seeing a difference from between last year and this year?
Yeah, definitely. A good
Awesome.
improvement.
Well, thank you, Amanda.
Thank
we
you.
we look forward to your comments at future board meetings as well. Who's next? Paris, don't forget to reintroduce yourself.
Yes, ma'am. Hi, y'all. I'm Paris Quinn. It's so glad to see everybody. I hope that everyone had a great break. It was so nice to hear about state testing. It was nice to hear that there's a lot of understanding instead of judgment. It was nice to hear Mr. Garcia talk about the gap and how 10th graders have to learn at such a higher level. A lot of kids don't feel adequate in their classrooms. So to just hear and to report back to my peers that the board is understanding, that the board does see the issue and that they're trying their best to help means a lot. For my school, we have homecoming coming up on the 22nd. I'm ready to get dressed.
Already?
Yeah. I would I didn't want to start off with the bad, but so far, I wouldn't say that my school is coming off to a great start. We've had a walkout so far. The walkout was more than 100 kids. If you don't know what the walkout was, if you don't know what the walkout was about, it's because a lot of students have come forward over the years and talked about how they've been sexually assaulted and sexually harassed in our school. That is an issue. That is such a problem. And it was a group of students that started that walkout. I'm so glad that students are starting to see that their voice matters. The students are starting to see that their voice is heard and that they can execute correctly and still get heard in such a way without being disrespectful, without being hard to approach, but still standing still to their morals. The next thing I would like to talk about is the amount of fights that have happened. During the time of school ending, we had more than 4 fights happen all at one time. I do want to stretch that we only have 2 security staff. And with so much happening, that's very unsafe. And this may be biased because if you don't know, my grandma is a security guard at my school, but she is very small, very small. And so to be around a lot of kids who are bigger than her, who are fighting, to see her counterparts that are also staff get hit in the face, that's a lot. So I would just ask that if the district can, that more help be given to Mount Tahoma. I feel like if the students saw that they were seen and that their issues were heard and that more people are coming, then more support can be given by them. But they have to know that support is offered first before they can give it. That's all I really had to talk about. I hope that y'all enjoyed y'all break. I know I enjoyed mine. And I hope y'all have an incredible day.
Thank you. Thank you, Paris. All right.
Hello, I'm Javon Smith. I am a senior at Sammy. I guess I'm supposed to give a check-in. Is that correct of my school? Yes. Okay.
If you want.
Well, Sammy's doing good. This year we're focusing on student efficacy. So we have a lot of different programs being set up by students that are ran all over. We have our haunted house that will be set up soon, towards the end of October. It will be starting October 25th, and it'll be ran through that week. And we'll be able to start a fundraiser for that. We're also working on our prom that we plan to run all as students ourselves. I'm sorry, I'm shaking a lot. I'm a little nervous, tiny bit nervous.
You good?
Take a breath. You're good.
Yeah. That same is good. I don't really know what else is. Yeah, you guys are scary.
What?
Half of us are shorter than you. Don't be scared.
Very true. Okay. Well, yeah. Thank you guys for letting me get this position and talk to you guys.
It's awesome to hear from you. Did you have a question?
Well, we might seem, in the past, we used to have the student members up here with us, so it'd probably be okay. I'd like to propose we get back to that at some point soon, by having them up here.
Yep. That would be 2 of them because we'd be alternates.
Sure, 2 of them. Might be less scary that way.
Something to talk about. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Hi, my name is Lacey DeLeon. I go to Lincoln High School, and the school year's been such a hectic kind of ride, especially coming back from having to wear a mask and students still getting used to the narrative in the school. My school is currently planning our homecoming. We have it on the 22nd, I believe, and our clubs at Lincoln are having fundraisers, and our FSU, which is Filipino Student Union, since I am half Filipino, it's really good to have that representative for our people and students. And I also enjoyed you guys talking about the school lunch, like the breakfast, because I know some students don't have the ability to get breakfast in the morning, so having that to get it in second period is good. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Well, we're off to a good start. Did you have something more you wanted to say?
I said I'm done shaking. I'm ready.
Redemption. Okay. Sammy doesn't really have like school lunch like other schools. Like all lunch lady brings a cult with like 6 different baskets on it, and then hands out school lunch from that. So how are we actually gonna be impacted by this? Because we don't have a like lunch system.
So I will work with Mr. Harris and the team to make sure that there is a plan and that it's communicated to you on how you guys can access that second lunch opportunity.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
Ask and you shall receive. So, all right. So now, as everyone, all the students have had their say, great, awesome. Who wants to go first up here?
I'll go first.
Okay,
Making
then.
this a tradition now. Hey guys. So I am board director, position number 4, and then every year we alternate. I'm learning. This is my first full school year, and so now I'm in the South Tacoma area, and I've been doing a lot of outreach at my schools and having a great time. And on yesterday I did some after-school programming with some students from Gray at the Star Center. We learned about what the Star Center is all about. We walked through it. We took a tour. We looked outside. We talked about the soccer game. They talked a lot. Middle schoolers talk a lot. We love them. But there's a Harvest Fest coming up at the Star Center. That was really important. And the kids said, oh, we can tap into this. They're like, yeah, anybody can come. It's free. And then at People Center, they're going to have a trunk or treat. But mostly getting back to like that fight culture that Paris was talking about. It's happening in our middle school as well, in the South Tacoma area. And what we're really seeing, Dr. Garcia, is after school, about 20 minutes after the bell rings, and then they get about 20 feet away from the school. And it's pervasive. It's not new. It's been going on, I'm sure, since all of us were in school. But I don't think maybe we did have the school patrol car out, but it was like a block away from where the actual fight took place. So it's like they're patrolling, but they may not know exactly where the kids are at. So I know you have your superintendent mini council with the middle schoolers. Ask them. And also, my mom lives in the neighborhood. I will tell you where you can find some of those. Yeah, that's my update.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Director Strozier.
Continue in order then. I was sitting up here before the board meeting trying to figure out what happened since the last board meeting, and I don't know how successful I was. But I will share with y'all that I did go to Willie Stewart Academy. It was good to spend some time in that building again. I used to work at that spot back when it was the Re-Engagement Center in 2013 and 14. So I actually got to pop in, hit some classrooms, talk to some teachers that were there since 2013, 14. It was exciting to revisit memories, but also to see kids like working, like straight up grinding, some parents grinding, trying to get recovery credits, trying to earn their GED or whatever it is they're working on. So that was a beautiful sight to see. I participated in the WASDA General Assembly.
Yes, you did.
While my colleagues were having presidential experiences over in DC, I was tapped to tap into the General Assembly, and it was interesting. 2 days of work, I participated in one, let's just be honest. But from 8 to 5, we were looking at about 259 different positions and voting on as it relates to the way forward for the state. And it was interesting. So I just want to tip my hat to Vice President Keating because she holds that work. And if that's what 2 days was like, I'm interested to see what 180 days of a school year is like, and then some. So I don't want no parts of that.
That's why we keep reelecting.
Yeah, exactly. I'm also a part of a collective of individuals who have called ourselves the Narrative Changers. And the purpose of this group is to really empower our middle school students to do just that, change the narrative in their schools, right? We're trying to get young folks to reimagine and be a model of what cool is, right? Because a lot of folks think that the fight culture is cool and talking about other people and ranking on other people is cool. And we all know that that's not. But we're trying to encourage young folks monthly at different points of the city. We've been at People Center. We've been at Eastside Community Center. At some point, we'll be at TCC. We're going back to Eastside Community Center on November 2nd. But we're really working with these young folks to change the narrative in their school, but really take ownership of what that actually looks like. We ain't telling you what to do, but we're working with folks to figure out how to do it. So just a quick shout out to Dr. Andre Stout, he's the principal over at Truman, who really spearheaded this partnership. You know, we're just doing this on extra time. Shout out to Dr. John Gaines, Dr. Timmy Foster, Christian Page, Emmy-nominated Christian Page, Antonio McLemore, and Brandon Irvin. We come together to join forces to do this work. And finally,
Can I ask, is that just middle school?
It's middle schoolers right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool.
And it's after school a lot of times, but we make sure folks are fed. Families have been present as of late. We had Dowd's Barbecue come to People Center and provide food for folks, so it was a good time. Yeah, so middle schoolers right now.
Thank you.
Finally, what feels like what's going to be a yearly tradition for me, I got to participate in Walk and Roll to School. This year I was at Whitman, where my daughters go. And I don't know how much more I'm gonna be able to participate in that because they try to boss me around as if they run the school. But Mayor Wooders were there. We were handing out stickers. We were celebrating kids who either walk to school, ride their bike, skateboard, just really trying to push the importance of, you know, being active outside and trying to find alternative routes to school. So that's what I did since the last school board meeting. If I missed anything, you'll never know.
Thank you, Director Strozier. Director Leon?
Thanks. Yeah, I think it's important to talk about this sexual abuse and assault issue that's probably not just at Mount T. I mean, it's still happening in this world, and I think it's important. I was there at Mount T that day that walkout occurred, and I can say I went out and listened to some of the speakers, and there were some very powerful things being said that were very important for voices to be heard, and I think some justice to come from that. I think I won't go into all the details, but some of the specific issues that had happened were from a previous student, but it probably still, things are going on. Things are still happening. So it's important that we don't tolerate any of that. And when it happens, we call it out and we try to protect each other from those type of events. And just it goes along with all the violence we're talking about here that still occurs in the world, and the fighting that is happening, and this narrative changing that you're working on, Dr. Strozier. I think it's really important to try to get the kids to try to make changes. I respect your thoughts about more security. That could help too, but I think the root cause is what we got to get to, in keeping our kids safe and kids keeping themselves safe. So I look forward to working with any student and all of us and all of your staff, Dr. Garcia, on ways we can keep people safe. It's really part of their mental health. Kids can't learn when they're heightened awareness and worried about where the next bully's coming from, where the next abuser's coming from. You can't learn anything that way. It's terrible. So let's roll up our sleeves and keep working on that, please. The Mount T School-Based Health Center is still doing very well, seeing lots of students there, getting lots of great care for those students. So we hope to be able to do more of that in other schools in the future. And I'm very interested to hear more about the haunted house, because I love haunted houses. So I want to come, and let's get more details on that after the meeting. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Vice President Keating.
I have a list. Oh my gosh. Well, first I want to start with, I did attend the Lincoln Mount Tahoma football game a couple weeks ago. It was amazing. And I really appreciated and enjoyed both cheer teams. So I just want to give their cheer squads a shout out because it was awesome. And then I also attended the girls varsity soccer game between Silas and Stadium, which I think was last week. So that was really cool. I'm working on making a rotation to try and hit up a lot of our female athletics because I feel like we hear a lot about our boys athletics, and I just want to balance the scale there. And then actually right after our last board meeting, Superintendent and I visited Raymond Hall, as that is one of my assignments this year, and I didn't know what that meant. I still am a little, like, it's a little gray, but we actually met with some of the yeah, we got to meet some of the youth there. We met staff there, and the staff the TPS staff that support Raymond Hall are the school counselor there has been there for over 10 years, and that is a population that requires a real dedication and compassion. And so we was really moved by just the staff support, and not just our own TPS staff, but also the Raymond Hall staff, which I suppose they're Pierce County Juvenile Court staff. I'm not really sure how that works. And then Josh and I met with I don't know, Josh, is his name, TJ's the director of Pierce County Juvenile Court, and the director of communications, Jenny Horn, and along with the principal, Renee Froman, who also is at Willie Stewart. So we spent a couple hours there, and it was really educational. And even after the superintendent left, I was able to meet with Judge Sabrina Aarons, who that is her assignment this year. So Ginny and Sabrina and I had an opportunity to talk about how is this population of youth in our community being served, and what are their needs. So it was a very impactful visit, and left me wondering a lot of things. And also, having grown up here, like Raymond Hall, like I know all the stories. I went to Silas. I know, I just think that there's a lot of important legislative improvements to juvenile justice reform. And also there's educational impacts, and how do we meet the needs of these youth? And I think the other part is that there's a very small percentage of those youth that are actually our own students, because it's a county facility. So there's just a lot of complexities to it. So I learned a lot. And then there's been multiple meetings that Josh and I have had around the Maritime Skills Academy, and also federal and state ledge and federal priorities. So I don't know, I feel like I've been in meetings for weeks on end. And then the superintendent, myself, and CFO Rosalind Medina went to DC, and we worked with our federal relations team, Simon & Company, which are amazing and helped us have a very successful advocacy trip. We met with Representative Congresswoman Strickland, Congressman Kilmer, Senator Murray and her staff, and met with staff for Senator Cantwell, as well as the Department of Labor and Department of Education, and Adam Smith's, Congressman Smith's staff as well. So it was a packed few days. And then trying to think, there was something else. Today, I want to give a shout out to our own Amanda Scott Thomas, who last week was awarded at the Tacoma Urban League's Empowerment Awards. And so that was really fun to be there. TPS was one of the loudest tables. I just want you to know we did represent for TPS and Amanda. So, and then I want to thank Corey for stepping in for me to be able to do the advocacy work in DC and still also not lose our advocacy work with WASDA. So I'm very, very grateful to you. And then lastly, today, WASDA had their now bi-monthly meetings, and they were focusing on school safety plans, and they had multiple different districts and superintendents and board directors present on their safety plans. And there are things that I was listening to these presentations, I'm like, we don't have to worry about Lahar, we don't have to worry about tsunamis. I mean, in the same Longview, but in the same anyways, so it was very interesting to just think about the districts that we heard from that are in fire areas, and how their safety plans are adapted and considered. There's just so much to safety. And so we heard from Yakima, Longview, North Shore, and I can't remember the other district. And throughout it all, I was just really struck and grateful for the voters of Tacoma, because many of these districts and the leaders talked about how they can't get a levy or a bond passed to be able to upgrade their facilities, or it's taken them years to be able to do so. And so I just wanted to extend gratitude to the Tacoma voters because we've been very fortunate in that arena. So, and I guess I got to walk back that Lahar thing. So sorry, Superintendent.
Okay, well, it's been busy. All right, so any other comments before we move on? All right, item 18, announcement of our next
Actually, one more, sorry. I forgot to mention someone. Just Caitlin Dilworth, you're talking about women's sports, girls' sports. So the coach of the Foss girls soccer team, they did not have a soccer team for about 3 years or so. And so she started the team again this year. I met her at the OL Reign, the women's pro team, last game. She brought the whole team to the game, and she just happened to be sitting in front of me, and we connected. It was just a wonderful person reaching out. Just so many great coaches we have out there, and she had an injured player that I had to go see at her school because, as you know, we still don't have a lot of trainers on a regular basis at our schools, but the coaches are all doing very good things around safety and keeping kids safe. So, great coach on the women's team, girls team.
Thank you. All right, so item 18, announcement of next regular board meetings. Our next meeting will be October 20th. It'll be a study session here. And then the next business meeting is October 27th. And both start at 6 p.m. So any other comments or good of the order before we adjourn? Superintendent?
Just want to thank our staff. We're 6-7 weeks into school. Our staff do an amazing job.
Yes, they do.
Every role, and what makes I think us unique, and I have also had that experience, Director Keating, of sitting in some conversations with other school districts. And I think what I continue to remember is our secret sauce here in Tacoma is our people, and how we try continuously to work together, even though we all don't agree on every solution or what next steps are. There seems to be this energy that I can feel when I go into our buildings, my partners, staff, community, trying to make this a better place for our future. And so I just want to go on the record and say thank you to our team for playing a role in that.
All right, thank you. And that's a good note to end on. So everyone stay safe, and we will see you next week. This meeting is adjourned.
Go Apes.
Yeah. God.